So thanks NSRCEL for giving us this platform. Thanks Keshav for inviting me for this talk. Um, so what Keshav said, you should talk about business models around open source and enlighten entrepreneurs who want to who want to understand how open source companies work. So what I've broken this talk into three broad categories. I'm going to first introduce me and ERPNext, what we do. We'll talk about some concepts about open source and free software, and then talk some philosophy, hopefully. So, so I'm Rushabh. I started Frappe Technologies in 2008. It's almost 12 years now. I joined my family business, which was into manufacturing, and they were struggling from an ERP implementation. The ERP was on a Microsoft platform, and the vendor was struggling to deliver this ERP product. And I've been a hobbyist programmer since childhood, and I thought, okay, how difficult is this going to be? So let me write my own ERP. And that's how I started. And so actually, I started this before 2008, right? My first code goes back to 2005. So it's 15 years, and I'm still writing it. So it's not really easy. But in the 15 years, we've created ERPNext, which is now the world's #1 100% open source ERP. So there are quite a bunch of open source ERP products in the market. Odoo is the largest one by traction and by community, but it is not 100% open source. It's an open core product, so they don't allow you certain modules like payroll and financial accounting. So that makes us the world's #1 open source ERP product. We estimate there are at least 5,000 companies worldwide using ERPNext, out of which around 800 are our customers. They pay us money, the rest don't. Over the years, we've built a team. So we are a team of 40, and we are based in Mumbai mostly, and Pune and Bangalore. We are a remote team. And also through the years, I mean, we've been watching open source projects. So this is probably the largest open source project to come out of India so far. I mean, and in terms of GitHub, okay, thank you. So I look at GitHub stars as one of the ways of evaluating, what is the, I mean, it's not scientific, but worldwide we rank around 300. So it's, while we are #1 in India, we are 300 in the world. So I mean, there is like a lot of headroom for us. Our aspiration is to be in top 20, right? So that's where we are, and it's been, so quick introduction of what ERPNext does. It does everything a business needs and a lot more. The way we talk about ERPNext today is it's like a Wikipedia of business processes. That's how I introduce ERPNext, because traditionally an ERP does financial accounting. But ERPNext does a lot more than financial accounting. It does inventory management, it does HRMS, it does CRM, it handles projects, it helps you run your help desk. It also has domain modules like manufacturing, retail, services, education, healthcare. So these are wide industry modules that are separate products usually, but we've architected ERPNext as a monolith product. So when you get ERPNext, you get all of this together. You don't have to see all of it. You can just hide stuff. You can switch off modules so that if you're using only manufacturing, you just see the manufacturing part of it. But we've built it as a monolith because we feel that is easier to run as a community and as a project, because once you create a app store ecosystem, and if you've used WordPress or any of the other open source platforms, I mean, you have to buy 20 apps to make it run. We didn't want that kind of an experience for our users. We wanted an experience where people use ERPNext, they should get everything from day one. It should work out of the box, and it should come with batteries included. So ERPNext is based on Python. And those who know Python will know that anything you need in Python is there usually. So it's batteries included framework platform. And then we also have so ERPNext is not only a application, but it is also a platform, because it has a metadata framework and APIs. So you could actually use ERPNext as a data backend for your administrative work, and then build front ends, either mobile or portals on top of it. So that's about ERPNext. Over the last 6 years, we've also done some community building. We've had conferences. We have had 6 conferences in Mumbai now. We have had, I think, 3 in Germany, and we've had 1 in Jakarta. So it's a growing global community. There are probably 12,000 people on the user forum. And I think maybe 25% community is Indian, but like 70 to 75% community is international. So this is about ERPNext. So coming back to some first principles about FOSS. So like who does FOSS, right? So just a qualifier about the terminology. So that we use open source and we use free software. And some of you may be aware of the difference. It's an ideological difference, and I'll get to those parts, but I'm going to use the term FOSS interchangeably for free software and open source. And some people may not like it, but I'll just use it to keep things simple for now. So who does FOSS? So a lot of it is hobbyists, like who create something and then they share their libraries or projects. A lot of people build fun things that they think they want to build and then give it out to people to show. You have companies that share non-core assets. So if a company builds a piece of technology like Facebook building React, for example, which is not really their core. So they say that like we can just share our non-core assets because we don't have to like keep maintaining it. Then you can also have FOSS from academia. Like a lot of the initial FOSS, the GNU project, and even Berkeley, Unix, and a lot of it came out of academia as research because initially maybe there wasn't enough ways to make money out of free software, so it was state funded and academics funded. And then this is a newer model where entrepreneurs build products and share them. And that's also a pretty significant model of the creation of FOSS in a way. So, and what we have seen is FOSS has gone from hobbyists and academics to now companies. Like companies are driving more FOSS than the academics or the hobbies. So again, like, this is the most common question I encounter, like why do you give away your stuff for free? And these are some of the answers that are usually given. Like at some point initially, like people would say, I'm not going to sell this stuff anyway, so might as well give it away for free. And then like, I've built something that's so cool, I can't wait to show it to the world. And it will also earn me bragging rights. Like I can go and say I have so many GitHub stars on my, and it also helps me build my resume, right? It might get me a job. So these days, I mean, I don't know if you're into tech hiring, and if somebody comes up with a GitHub profile that has a minor project that gets even like 100 stars, I mean, that person is hired, right? So it's a very legit way of building a career also. At some point, like I said, companies will say that why should we be the only people to like maintain this massive monster that we've created? So let's share the cost, like Google and Facebook and Microsoft. Microsoft is now one of the biggest sponsors of free software, and their model is also so there is another model. In fact, Microsoft wants branding, right? So maybe I didn't add it. So there are companies that do it for branding, like to earn, again, bragging rights with the community. And then at some point, this becomes serious. Like, okay, now we've had the fun. Can we make money out of it? Can I earn a living? I've done this thing. I like doing it. And if I can make money out of it, like this is perfect, right? This is what I like doing. I make money out of it. So it's also a way to earn a livelihood and participate in society. And then it gets more serious. Like, okay, now I've done this. Can I build an enterprise on top of this? Like, can this become entrepreneurship, or can I become an entrepreneur and do the services? And then finally, it's just pure rebellion, right? The world is evil. It's all corrupt. You can't get into IIM, so so let's just do it. Let's just like rebel, right? I mean, this is a form of expression. So we kind of underestimate this, but a lot of FOSS is actually rebellion. Like even in my case, I can put some percentage down to rebellion, right? Oh, nobody ever funds me. Now I'm going to like do it. So so there is a rebellion part of it too. And then like, why should I use, like, so from the user side, and Kailash is going to talk a lot more about it, but just to give a broad concept is like, why should I use FOSS, right? Okay, there is so much FOSS created, and FOSS is now very legit, right? I mean, it's not something which is fringe. FOSS is so mainstream that even Reliance is using it. So so it's free. It's really easy, right? I mean, it's free. Like first, okay, no brainer. I don't need to talk about it. It's in the name. And it's really easy. So one of the big deployments of ERPNext is a company called Elastic Run based in Pune. And they were they're setting up their company, and then they said that, okay, we need a ERP, right? And they were sitting at Bangalore airport. And they said, okay, let's look at free ERPs. And they found ERPNext. And they said, can we set it up? So sitting in Bangalore airport, they just spun up an AWS instance and they put ERPNext and they were live. Like, so it's fast. I mean, you go into a traditional proprietary product, you have to call somebody and somebody gives a demo, and then you get into protracted negotiation about pricing, and then you get into contracts, and then you get lawyers, even before you get started. So like, by the time you started, it's already, you're like exhausted, right? So FOSS gives me this freedom that I can just start off immediately, like, okay, I can run with this. And then it's also awesome and scalable, right? I mean, it's really good stuff. It's not only, it's free, but it's really good. I mean, so Keshava said that, we're still using Windows here, right? Why do we use Windows? I mean, because we have a resistance to change. But when we see FOSS these days, like, it's good. I mean, I'm not one of those who says that if it's not good enough, you should still use it. Maybe there is an argument for that. And then cloud. So everything changed after cloud happened. And the entire industry is moving towards cloud. The guy who got promoted as the CEO of IBM today ran their cloud division. The guy who got promoted as the CEO of Microsoft ran their cloud division. So the whole capitalist conspiracy here is get everybody in the cloud and then, seek the rent. And that's driving FOSS. And what is the honey trap? The honey trap is FOSS. You use FOSS, then you get on the cloud, and then we make money. So, and also this, right? I mean, at some point you would say, like, I'm not going to pay Microsoft, like, whatever, come what may. And there are a lot of ideological reasons why people will use FOSS. And maybe if you want to talk, like, there are a lot of, there is a whole community in India which uses FOSS for very ideological reasons, because we don't want to be a colony again. I mean, that's a very serious point to consider also, because if we keep using Microsoft and the lots, we are in a way giving up some stuff there. So again, rebellion. Use FOSS if you want to rebel. And if you see any hacker who uses FOSS, you'll see it on their stickers, right? The laptop stickers. Like, this is like rebellion. Yeah, and then the companies, because you have all these companies now. This is like very recent, right? 3-4 years, like cloud. After cloud, every FOSS company thought we can make money here too. So we have been exploited. So FOSS is also like, I made this open source because it was cool, but hey, now people are making money off my shit. I need to also make money off it, right? Where is the fairness in this? So a lot of FOSS companies are now becoming capitalist in a way that, okay, we will create companies and we'll list them on the stock exchange and we'll make a lot of money. So like Red Hat was the only one which had done it for many years, but now there's like a whole bunch of companies. And I think there are more than 50 companies who do open source and have more than $100 million revenue. So there are more than 50 such companies, according to one list. So what is the business model? So I'm just putting it in quotes because there is no business model. This is what turns out to be how businesses happen, is that you get users, you build a community, and then you make the money. So a lot of people will argue that open source is not a business model. It's a way to create software, which it is. But now we are kind of hitting the intersection where you can create more software and you can also make money, right? So, and then if you have done this, like, how do I make money? Like, I can service. So anybody who uses ERPNext can pay us money to get more consulting out of us. Then SaaS and cloud is the other big path to make money, where MongoDB is, I think, a listed company, and they make like 70 to 80% of revenue from MongoDB Atlas, which is their cloud offering. Open core is something I personally have like big problems with. So basically, it's a honey trap that you give some stuff free, and then and when you realize it, when you're hooked onto it, like, you are forced to go on a paid plan. So which is Odoo, which is the other open source ERP, is essentially open core. And while it is not illegal, right? So you can still do that. You would be aware that things are like, maybe open core may not be, like, maybe a honey trap also. And then there is obviously grants and fellowships that are given out, and they generate software. Okay, again, first principles. Now let us understand what is free software. So this is what the GNU manifesto says, that there are 4 fundamental freedoms that are given: freedom to use, freedom to study, freedom to modify, and freedom to redistribute. So there is no freedom to demand for free support. There is no freedom to, I mean, there are a lot of freedoms which people assume come, like, which is called free beer, essentially, don't come with free software. So these are the four freedoms. So people ask, like, what if you close your software 5 years from now? And then, then they propose that, ERPNext could be a honey trap, right? I'm just getting into ERPNext and then you will close it. And then I'll be forced to pay for it. So my answer to this is that these are the 4 freedoms you have today, and that is it. There is no other obligation. If you bind me to behave in a certain way in future, that's slavery. So you can't make somebody a slave and say, okay, now you created this free software, now it's your responsibility to manage it till you die, right? So that's not how it works. So you have to understand this. If you're going to use free software, this is like really important to understand how it's created and supported and what are the thought processes behind free software. Some learnings from our journey. That free software is hard. It took us 15 years to reach it. There are, like last year, GitHub came out with a post that there are 100 million repositories on GitHub now. So if you're going to just put something out there, it's very unlikely that somebody's going to like suddenly start starring it and start using it. So it's very hard because there is so much free stuff, and people associate free stuff with poor stuff, right? Like anything is free can't be good. So you have to actually work harder in free software to win the user's trust. So free software is also brutal meritocracy. Like somebody just told me yesterday that LibreOffice is so bad, right? I mean, I can't use it. And I had to remind them like it's free, right? I mean, like, so people expect, right? Even if they don't pay, they expect it to be like better than paid software. So it's really brutal from, like, if you're creating free software to think, okay, I'm giving you for free, right? But no. I mean, you'll be surprised, but you get more criticism of your work than praise. So you get praise, but you be prepared for a lot of criticism. And at some point I realized this, and this was the burnout, and there are a lot of blogs of contributors and maintainers burning out because somehow they feel they're committed to free labor now. That, I have to go into the forums and answer a question, I have to review a contribution, I have to make something. So then it burns you out, right? Because somehow you are obliged to keep doing this, but you are not obliged. So at some point, very recently, one of our customers, so he called me to Germany, and he called me to, like, the entire 4 days, he just repeated this, stop doing free stuff. Like, and then I got his point, right? Okay, there is some sustainable point here, right? The software is free, not the labor. So quality matters more than community. So when people talk about free software and open source, they talk about communities a lot more. But if you look at the conversations around free software, they are like inside the projects, they're all about quality. Like all the passionate discussions are about architecture and about design decisions and about consistency and quality. And any project that succeeds must have good quality, and this must be like really high quality products that need to come out. Their community will come. Community is an outcome of quality. So if you're doing free stuff, like focus on quality more than anything else. The community will come because it's free. And we realize we have to build a brand. So when we build a brand, we have to be consistent. So if I say I'm an anti-capitalist or whatever, I have to be consistent about it. Because people will trust you at that. So I'm not an anti-capitalist, by the way. But okay, so the last part. So some philosophy. I read a good article which said that you cannot discuss anything unless you bring the entire human history as a part of it. So I think it's also important to give like 5 minutes to philosophy. So what is FOSS is actually, when we say in the terms of society, it is creation of public goods. And the public goods, I mean, I would say the biggest internet success is not Google, right? It's not Google, it's Wikipedia. But we don't consider Wikipedia with the same kind of respect that we give Google. Wikipedia to freeloaders ne banaya, like, just free people, volunteers, bad quality, everything, right? But actually, like, Wikipedia has created a lot more wealth for society than Google. So public goods help, right? Public goods, in fact, companies like Google, like the entire generation of startups are built on top of free software. So the creation of public goods actually has helped to keep capitalism in check, right? Because imagine if Google had to use Microsoft servers to run Google search. At some point, Microsoft would have seen, why is Google buying so many servers? Why is Google buying so many Microsoft licenses? And they would have said, like, hey man, like this is like this is a big business. Let's do a search, right? They woke up much later. See, because Netscape ran on Windows, they knew how many people were using Netscape, and they killed it because they knew this, right? So Microsoft woke up very late, like a certified monopolist woke up very late because people were building stuff on free software. So FOSS is also categorical. So this was another debate we were having, Kailash, right? That it's like it's not outcome driven. It is you do FOSS because you have to do it. It's not because you can hit a 1 billion revenue or you can get so many users. And that is true also about entrepreneurship to an extent, that you have to start a company because you have to do it, not because there is a model around it. So the model is an outcome of the good work. And because FOSS has been associated with more a creative kind of a culture, like the hacker culture, and more an artist culture, it is also kind of categorical. And then when we go back to like what is wealth, how do we, like what is, I mean, you forget the last 300 years of capitalism. I mean, what is wealth? What we have done as humans is we have created more freedom for ourselves over the years. And money is just a proxy for freedom. Like when you get money, it's just that you have more options, right? There is nothing, money doesn't do anything in itself. So this is also what FOSS does, right? It creates more options. So we are bypassing capitalism and we are saying, okay, let's create the direct wealth for society. And FOSS is not anarchy, okay? So our goal is not to kill capitalism. It's to challenge and keep it honest. That I understand that capitalism replaces communism and absolute monarchy, right? So we don't want to go back to communism and absolute monarchy. So we still want capitalism, but we want to keep it honest. So we need the FOSS part of it. So that's the philosophy. Still have 4 minutes for questions.